Your AI project is going to fail because it was doomed from the start. In today's video, join me on a walk around Sydney as I explore some of the reasons why AI projects fail, and if you're trying to get one of these working in your business, how to mitigate them. The reality is that most AI projects are completely doomed from the start. They didn't have the right governance, they didn't have the right leadership, they weren't working to a clear vision of what a future state should look like. And when you're in that situation, it's just like any other project failure. A lot of the hard thinking actually has to be done at the outset of what you want to get out of something. You can't magically do an AI project to fix all of the cans that you kicked down the road with poor decisions in the past. Solving the wrong problem is one of the most common things that companies get wrong, and it's easy to see why. You get pressure from your customers, pressure from your board. How are we doing AI? Are we rolling AI out fast enough? Then you do something like give everyone Copilot, give everyone ChatGPT. That mightn't actually be the best use of AI in your business. You need to think about your whole operating model, how absolutely everything is done in the AI era. And when you've thought about that, what you'll know is if you've done any sort of process mapping before, you focused on what actually gives you the highest return. You might have high manual touchpoint processes that previously required teams to manually review the output of systems, but inside the right guardrails can be delegated to an AI agent to get results that are happy and comfortable and meet the quality expectations that you need. There's no reason to keep thinking about transformation in the pre-AI era way of thinking. One of the next failure patterns is what I call the data swamp. So the data swamp is when you're just absolutely stuck with PDFs and spreadsheets and Word files and intranet websites and something in this database, something in another database. Oh, look, a concrete truck. Well, you're stuck in the concrete too, because sometimes decisions you made years ago about your internal architecture, how your data governance works, means that you cannot do something today that you should be able to do trivially with AI tools, because you've got accumulated tech debt in the form of data that's not cleaned up, data that can't be accessed from other systems, and all of this is going to slow you down. So sometimes AI projects fail because of decisions taken years ago. I like to talk about AI as a sunlight, where it's a sunlight disinfectant, where all of these problems, all of these things where you didn't take technology seriously enough, AI projects surface them, and these become the blockers that you then need to use AI to help you actually fix. Death by governance or death by committee. This is another reason that AI projects of all sizes can fail. There's so much risk around the use of AI. There are valid risks that you need to think about, but the tendency of a lot of risk-averse companies to put so much bureaucracy, process, and governance through layers around AI experiments puts a lot of them at risk of never getting off the ground. Alternatively, it puts AI pilots in a position where they get special exemptions from how things normally work, so they replicate success and achieve success in a way that is literally impossible to achieve in the rest of the organization unless you completely change how the entire governance, project, change management, compliance, legal risk functions think about absolutely everything. Yet another problem is what you might want to call everyone looks the same, or everyone's trying to solve the same problems. An example of how silly this could be is take AI customer chatbot. That might make sense to have a really useful, engaging AI customer chatbot if you are running a business that has thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of clients. And if you build up some intelligence over time to figure out that what you're able to do is answer almost all of your customers' queries on a first contact basis, that's going to save you a lot of money. They're going to feel quite happy that they can get their problem solved in an efficient way without needing to ring someone, send a message, or visit your store or office. If you are a boutique law firm, other than things that are very administrative and basic, it's probably not as valuable for you to waste time on a chatbot project. What you want to be doing is focusing on the high leverage areas of your business. What is going to be useful for you if you're a law firm? Maybe something like making legal research a bit more efficient, making document processing and extracting relevant information and putting things into detailed chronologies or classifications If you're doing large amounts of discovery, maybe that would be more valuable than doing a chatbot. But a lot of companies are copying what other companies are doing without thinking about what their operating model is and where the highest leverage use cases are for them. Because even companies in the same industry can have very different ways of working, and that's part of the unique IP that needs to be considered when you're thinking about how to actually get an AI project to a point where it is giving you a return on the spend. So I absolutely have to talk about AI pilots right now because I'm kind of on a mission at the moment to stop them. Why would I want to stop AI pilots? Well, I think that at this point, almost every single thing you could use AI for in your business has been asked and answered successfully by someone else. You just need to spend 5 minutes on the internet looking for examples. You'll find case studies and examples. You don't need to go off and prove that an AI chatbot can retrieve something from the internet or can help you in your specific domain. So many people are doing so many things. There's so many startups working on problems in this space that it's kind of pointless to worry about things like, oh, I need to do a pilot to prove that there are use cases for AI in financial services. Are you serious? At this point, you're just wasting time, and you actually need to be thinking about what is your current operating model, what's not working, what's inefficient, what do you actually need to be pushing to AI agents instead of teams of humans to take advantage of the leverage of the technology. Worrying about a pilot when you have an urgent transformation problem to solve is just a complete waste of corporate resources. And I think increasingly in 2026, we're going to see more and more leaders figure this out. And if that's something that you need help with, I write a Substack newsletter, and it comes out twice a week, and I talk more about the people side of change and the thinking and the mental models, because that's the actual problem now. It's no longer a technology problem, it's a people problem. Getting people to recognize that there's an urgent need for change and helping build the right mindset and ways of thinking about how do you apply AI to operating model change in 2026 and beyond. A lot of companies are going to try and play it too safe in the AI era, and that's another contributing factor to AI project failure. If you have an operating model and you know that there are problems in there that AI can help you solve, one of the best things you can do as a leader or business owner is lean in and find high return on investment projects, not just basic chatbots or giving everyone access to Copilot or Gemini. You need to be thinking bigger. To think about what does thinking bigger mean? Well, a lot of AI first startups and competitors who really lean into using AI in your industry aren't going to put so many processes and rules and regulations in place to stop that trial and error process. And the trial and error process is how everything works in business. You try things, they work, they do not. You keep trying until something hits. And a lot of businesses can get to a point where maybe they're in a regulated industry, maybe they're in a less competitive industry, and they kind of start to rest on their laurels and stop innovating. And that's when things start to go wrong. Because what you find is innovation is the only thing that is moving the world forward. And at the moment, if you look at where all the CapEx is going in the world, most net new CapEx is going towards AI and the infrastructure to support AI. Essentially, there really aren't any other bets when it comes to where the innovation will come from. And part of that is because human cost, or the cost of skilled labor, is a massive part of the operating model of a lot of businesses. And when you add in the complexity of operating in different countries, operating under different regulators, different regulations, all of the stuff, when you start to find a way to make things more efficient and do things better, faster, and cheaper, the incentive for corporate leaders is to double down and put as much as they can on that bet. Now, some companies have figured this out and they're starting to see the rewards. Some companies are using AI as an excuse for job layoffs, where maybe they overhired too much in the pandemic. But overall, what you're going to see more of over the next few years is a situation where companies that have been too risk-averse in how they approach AI in their business are not going to have made the mistakes and learned from them, so they won't have the knowledge about how best to work with AI. They won't know how to get the most out of models. They won't know how to get the most out of agents. They won't know which vendors are good, which vendors are bad. They won't know which consultants add value and which are still just stuck in slide deck generation. This is part of the problem with the quarterly earnings cycle and the cost minimization culture that exists. Yes, you do need to have some cost discipline, but we're still at this experimentation phase. So again, if you are a business leader and you're concerned about the cost of AI, you kind of need to give yourself a time window where you let your people run free with the spend. They need to know what works and what doesn't. And until you've accidentally incurred hundreds or thousands of dollars in API spend, you're just not going to have that visceral experience of how expensive AI can be if you use it wrong, or conversely, how much value you get out of a paid subscription. So what are the winners doing? What are the plays to make sure you're not in that losing company set? Well, one of the first things that I recommend and I write about on my Substack is you do not want to do the silly restrictions. The silly restrictions are things like just giving people a monthly plan and expecting them to come up with all this innovation. The silly thing is coming up with policies like letting people have access to AI tools, but that tool is only restricted to the cheaper model, not the most powerful model. Another one I've seen is people actually blocking the AI tools that they have in Copilot or Gemini from doing web browsing search via the admin to restrict the risk of the AI agent doing something like a prompt injection attack. These are one of those things, some of these things, they sound really smart in a PowerPoint presentation from your cybersecurity team, but they're absolutely dismal for your productivity in the long run. So avoiding a lot of these rookie errors is one of the easiest ways to get more leverage. If you spend any time on X and you are aware of how people are using things like local LLMs, where they're running models on their own hardware, or even people who are building their own harnesses to access the different models through the command line and through TUIs and things like that, what you know is that the pace of innovation in the open source ecosystem is massive, and it's way too fast for most businesses to keep up with, and they don't need to keep up with it. But what I'd like you to think about is you want your business to be as close to the frontier as you can keep up with and integrate that change into your business. So if you have a head of AI, if you have an AI transformation lead, if you have a chief technology officer who is supposed to be running and leading this AI transformation for you, do they need to be installing things on the day they come out? No, they don't. But they need to have an opinion. They need to be testing them, and they need to be developing taste for what is working, what is not working, what the right patterns of usage are and what they aren't. One thing in my own usage of AI tools over the last year that's evolved is I found myself using command line tools and open harnesses like OpenCode and Pi much more. Getting more granular control over exactly how the harness I'm using is working is quite valuable for many use cases like building your own code review agents or testing out different models via API endpoint instead of a free subscription. A lot of corporate deployments have a risk of getting stuck in the OpenAI or Anthropic duopoly. And that's great because you're going to get some amazing outcomes from that. But the risk is, over time, unless you have that neutral model-agnostic layer to route the best model for the best task or the right task, you're just not going to be in a position where you've got choice if there's a flag on your account for different types of behavior, if you're doing cybersecurity testing of your new web application, or if the cost gets out of control for different model types, or if the functionality of another vendor is too high, but you've built up all these customized and tuned workflows that work best with Claude or work best with ChatGPT 5.5. And that's another thing which I've learned over the last year. It's that every model does require a little bit of tuning. And a lot of people don't realize that every time a model gets updated, You can't just rely on the harnesses and the workflows and the skills that you've put together. You need to tune them for whatever the new model capability is. For example, when ChatGPT 5.5 was released, there were some changes under the hood to how it worked. And if you didn't go and tune the skills that you were using with it, you would not be getting the best output that's possible with that model. So there's a permanent maintenance and upgrade cycle that comes with more reliance on AI tools. There's life cycle asset management type things to think about when it comes to models and how you use them in your business. And as I've spent more and more time on this, I realized that a lot of this is just way too complicated for so many executives to get their heads around, let alone small, medium business owners. They just don't have the time for all this stuff. And there's also a massive gap where a lot of the consultants selling solutions in this space aren't on the tools enough themselves, so they're essentially acting as minimum information, OpenAI or Anthropic resellers, not really adding the value because they don't have that breadth of experience in how every single little thing works. I'm not saying I have that. I think effectively no one has it at this point because there's so many different model families, so many different harnesses, so many different ways of getting better results that we're still in this early experimentation phase. So to recap, why do these AI projects fail? I think there are so many different factors, but a lot of it comes down to how do you want to operate in the coming years when AI becomes better and better, and you need to have it as an integral part of your operating model. You need to make that decision as a leader and figure out how technical you want to be. Because if you don't want to be technical, then maybe just picking OpenAI, picking Anthropic, and rolling with whatever they roll out is the optimal path for you. It's your call, but if you're interested in learning more about this stuff, I talk and write a lot about the people side of AI transformation on my Substack. The link to subscribe is in the description below. Cheers.